Vlog on a blog. Tomorrow's news today. Get to the truth. Listen, learn, live. Visit us at yadayah.com.
All right. I love the new introduction. Good to see you, Kirk. You're looking pretty spry. So understand a move is in order. You're going to leave the ice box of communist Carmel.
Yeah.
Going to move up to the wine country and be up looking on a hill overlooking Sonoma.
Well, overlooking Santa Rosa.
Okay. Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
You're going to pick up at least 20 degrees, maybe 30 degrees during the summertime. It's what the average temperature in Carmel and the California summertime is at about 52.
52 to 62. It seems to be a lot of that.
Okay.
And rain and wet and nasty.
Yeah, and foggy and foggy, And you'll shed a few of the communists.
Yeah. A lot of farm belts out there. People who have to make a living and they actually go to work.
Oh, okay. Wow. That sounds lovely. So we won't have pictures of this studio. You'll be in a different studio.
Yeah.
Here in about a month.
We'll be somewhere in the house.
Somewhere in the house. We have to figure out. You're going to arm wrestle for who gets the guest house, who gets the studio, who gets the.
That battle was already lost, and you know who won that one.
Okay.
But I'll have a corner somewhere that'll be all mine. So.
Okay, you'll have a spot somewhere, huh? Okay. Even if it's outside under a tent.
Well, you know, I said on the thing by the pool.
Okay,
pool. Just a little pool. It's a nice one.
Okay. Sounds great. All right. Well, we're going to jump right in here. The first post was put together by a Marxist that is blaming capitalism for the fact that a shocking 92% of U.S. adults are not going to the doctor because it's too expensive. What they don't realize is America went from a capitalistic system of healthcare, which was the best in the world, where most people had health insurance. You could afford health insurance and you had it, and the product was really good. You didn't mind paying for it. To the point where they approved Obamacare, socialized medicine. And if you were among those who actually was responsible and paid for your own health care, you couldn't buy it anymore. That product that you bought was only being given to the people that didn't pay anything for it, and the actual product that you bought, you couldn't buy anymore. And you had to pay an exorbitant amount for a product that wasn't even tolerable. So I recall that when I was in Florida, I said, all right, you know, I had left Virginia, no longer had anything to do with my farm, so I didn't have a group insurance policy anymore, and I was on my own. I tried the Obamacare marketplace for part of a year. I signed up for it, paid my money, and they did not let you choose a doctor. You had to go to the cattle mill. And I remember showing up there, and it was the most hideous, horrible, sickly scene I had ever seen. It is like we had gone back to communist Russia 50 years ago. And I waited there in a really hideous environment, surrounded by all sorts of sickly people, for about 5 hours of my time I wasted. I finally got in to see a doctor who was really unhappy to have to be there. And the only thing they were interested in giving was STD checks. I'd moved to South Florida. I said, probably not the worst thing in the world to have. She came back. She says, "Oh my God, you're the first person this week that has tested negative." I said, "You don't know that, but we get almost universal positives with our STD checks here. You're an anomaly." But I walked out of that experience saying I will never go back. I would rather die than have to endure socialized medicine. That's my view of it. And I came here. We have a singular hospital on this island. It is run by a socialist government here. It is, even though they have built 2 very expensive hospitals, neither of which are operable because of somebody stealing money and nincompoops building them. The last one, they forgot to put oxygen in the walls. So it's in a double wide trailer where the emergency room was, where you'd have to go. And I was in real agony. I didn't know for sure what it was, but later I found I was passing a kidney stone. And you've had several. You know that hurts.
Horrible.
Yeah, you think you're going to die. I mean, it really hurts.
Hey, you want
and,
to?
Yeah, you want to die. Yeah, you do. You want to die.
Shotgun.
So I walked in knowing that if it wasn't a burst appendix or hung testicle, or there's 3 or 4 things that kind of pain in that area could be, and 3 of the 4, if you don't get immediate medical treatment, you are going to die. The other one, you're going to wish you died, but
Yeah.
after a number of hours, it will pass. And so I walked in not knowing which one it was, and I surveyed the situation. I looked at Leah, who walked in there with me, and I said, I'd rather die. We're out of here. And that's my view of what has happened to healthcare in the United States. I have not been to a doctor in a very, very long time. And it isn't because of capitalism, it's because of socialism. They've ruined, completely destroyed the healthcare delivery system in America that was the best in the world to it being the worst in the world. And I'm not going to say it was efficient. It wasn't efficient because of the fact that the United States Congress is run by lawyers, and lawyers love lawsuits. And we made healthcare and drugs expensive because of malpractice and and no tort reform to minimize the amount that could be charged, and then juries comprised of undereducated, irrational Americans that, decided on all sorts of ridiculous amounts to burden companies, and so they couldn't deliver a decent product. But that's what's happened with American healthcare, and I can assure you that I'm not the anomaly. Now, you have been a major consumer of American healthcare here recently, Kirk. You had an ailment that, as I said when you first told me about it, I said, the good news here is that the overwhelming preponderance of men are going to die with that, but almost no men die of it. Nevertheless, you decided that you would take the advice of all of the specialists who said, you need to go and be treated by us. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Well, it wasn't a lot of fun. The decision to do it was I had a large tumor right on the edge of it, and they said when that goes through, you're dead, or you're rapidly fading away. So it wasn't something that I was really given that kind of a choice. So I chose to do that. But after the radiation started 940 times, that was horrible. I was ready to die. Seriously, I just said, I can't take it anymore. I'm glad it's finally over. And then they put me on the medication stuff after that, and that was really horrible. And after finally, I just said, screw
enough.
this.
Screw this. It's not worth it.
They did get my numbers down, so I was happy to hear David in New Zealand. He's getting lower numbers too, and that's always helpful.
No, that's good.
We're all trying to get to Shabur, so that's
you're all trying to make it to Shabur.
Yeah, we want to go together. We want to go together.
Be on the ride. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a horrible thing. And you look at chemotherapy and radiation and that sort of thing. It's a really horrible way to treat a disease. And the fact is, when you talk about cancer, there's only like 900 versions of cancer, and the variations of cancer are almost completely unrelated. The only common denominator is a rapid and overhyped development of cells in a certain region. But just to say cancer is like saying, I have a boo-boo. because all boo-boos are boo-boos, but cancer there's really nothing in common with the various forms of cancer, and the way that we treat it with chemotherapy and radiation is deadly. When you're treating somebody with something that kills everything, it just happens to kill the more hypoxic cells, because when they reproduce rapidly, they close off the vascular flow, which means your cancer cells get less oxygen than other cells. So they're hypoxic, and therefore they're not as strong. So they can't defend themselves against the chemotherapy and the radiation as well as a normal cell. So it does damage to everyone. It just kills the weaker cells. But the problem, of course, is if you have one that survives, then you have a bigger problem than you started with. Yeah, because if 1% survives, it's a much bigger
place to go and grow.
Yeah, now it's a much bigger problem, because now you have that 1% will spool back up, and it's already the 1% that's immune to radiation and chemotherapy. So, and whatever the other drug treatments are. So it's a bit barbaric in the way that we treat that disease.
Very much.
Yeah, no fun. Anyway, that's my view, is that Mr. Marxist here is blaming capitalism on the thing that actually built the healthcare system, and he wants to exonerate socialism, which is the thing that destroyed it. Yeah, this is interesting here. So you got Hog's Breath, having been the first Secretary of War since, back since FDR, I guess. Before we had a Secretary of Defense, he made it a Secretary of War, and of course he lost his first war as the Secretary of War. And I just wanted to put in perspective the difference between the United States and Iran, the country he lost to. Because he didn't just lose, he destroyed America's armament reserves while losing. And so America tops the ticker tape parade with 1.1 trillion that is the disclosed Department of War budget. Now, on top of that, there was all sorts of extra bills to fund the Department of War even more, and that does not include all of the black ops programs, the secretive weapons development programs that are in different places in the budget, nor does it include the most invasive spying mechanism between the CIA and the NSA of any country in the world, that's also in the hundreds of billions of dollars. So all total, America is probably closer to 1.5 or 1.6 trillion in its spy military budgets, including all black operations. So you've got America up there at 1.5 trillion. Next on the list is China at 300 billion.
3 times.
Well, it's 3 times if you don't consider all the stuff that we have off books and the spy apparatus of the United States. It's closer to 5 times if you consider all of that. And then you have Russia at 190. Germany, who couldn't fight their way out of a wet paper bag today, squandering 110 billion and getting literally nothing for it. India at 90 billion, and India's entire defense budget is strictly to stave off the terrorists of Pakistan. That's the only reason that they have to have a defense budget. I've had to put on the glasses because it kind of got blurred behind you there. I don't know what has happened. Then you have the UK, and I don't think that the UK has one viable ship anymore. It used to have the most powerful navy in the world, and I don't think they have a single functional military ship now. I think the Royal Navy is just completely a bucket of rust.
They couldn't beat Argentina either.
No, they if they were to fight the war now, they would get clobbered by Argentina. So they get nothing. I mean, literally nothing for their 88 billion. But I thought it was interesting to see Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is one of the victims of Iran and this war. And Saudi Arabia has not fired back a viable shot. They have a defense budget of 85 billion. It's either number 2 to number 5 as a percentage of GDP in the world, depending on who you look at. And at $85 billion, they couldn't find a single person to work any of those weapons. Not a single defensive shot.
Let me tell you a quick story. When my father was, he was last years he was always running giant construction companies. That's why we got to travel all over the place. And his final years, one of his friends said, "Come over here and build this, supervise this building of the airport in Taif in Saudi Arabia." So he did that for about 2 years, and then he retired to Australia. He was a fighter pilot in World War II, and he said, we train them, and he was at Northrop. We train them, we give them these jets, we teach them how to do everything, and then they get up there and they start looking out the window and get scared, and then they just stick them in the ground. And he says, we sell them another plane, but they ain't got a hope in hell of building an Air Force that competes with anything. I mean, they just freak out.
They're complete waste of weapons.
Yeah. So they're no threat, no matter what you give them.
The last time they fought is when the Brits bribed them, and it was the Wahhabs that Brits bribed to ride camels and swing scimitars against the Ottoman Turks in World War I. That was the last time they fought successfully. No, Saudi Arabia, 85 billion. Number 2 in terms of expenditures as a percentage of GDP, and they can't even defend MBS, who is hiding in a hole someplace. Next, you have, excuse me 1 second.
There he is.
We have another co-host that wants to either join the show or just drink my tea. It's green tea today. He happens to love green tea, so we'll top him off and give him a little green tea. The next you have Ukraine. It's the 70 billion funded entirely by other countries, particularly the United States and Europe.
They ain't got 70 billion.
Yeah, France is 67 billion, and the French war salute. So the French are going to be. Oh yeah, see the camera, back. Oh boy, these smart cameras. You give them a gesture, and they're all of a sudden they think, boy, you want the close up. No, thank you.
I know that one. I know that move. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Japan at 60 billion. Israel at 48 billion. They're tied for 11th worldwide. You listen to all these talking heads, you think that Israel has the biggest military, baddest military in the world. But they're tied for 11th with Italy that no one complains about, South Korea that no one trains about, and Poland that again isn't known for their military prowess. How long did it take Germany to go through Poland?
A day and a half, and a whole lot of gas to get there.
Yeah, maybe a day and a half. Yeah, one fill up of gas. Thank you very much for your 48 billion. Spain at 40 billion. Spain's last military effort was the Inquisition. The Canada that wants to talk a good game at 37 billion. Australia down there, down under, next to the land of Oz, 35 billion for who knows what, but they spend it. Turkey, that is considered the great threat now, and as the great protector of Saudi Arabia, spends 30 billion. The Netherlands, the country that claims to be they're the big peace advocates, are the ones that condemn everybody of war crimes. Well, they come in at 19 at 29 billion. Algeria is a place that I don't think one person in 100 could even point to on a map. If I told you to point out, please tell me where Algeria is. I I know, but I don't think most people even know where Algeria is. And Algeria hasn't fought a war except against Christians and Jews since the Islamic crusades. And then you've got Brazil at 24 billion. Of course, Taiwan at 18 billion. You're gonna stave off China. If China wants to conquer you, you're gonna put your 18 billion gonna go all in against China. That'll work out just great. But what I thought was interesting, if you could scroll up just a little bit so we get out of the hat there, Kevin. What I thought was interesting there is Pakistan. That is the other defender of Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia, with its massive defense budget into the 90 billion range and doesn't have a single person that can operate any of its weapons, has bribed Pakistan to the tune of $5 billion to defend it. But Pakistan's entire military expenditure is 12 billion.
Wow.
And 11 of the 12 is jihadists screaming Allahu Akbar. Vietnam is at 11 billion. Vietnam's more formidable, I think, than Pakistan in terms of a military. Kuwait. Now, Kuwait, which is nothing now but cannon fodder twice over. They were cannon fodder for Saddam Hussein. They're cannon fodder again for Iran at 8 billion. And mighty Iran, the country that a hog's breath here just lost a war to, at all in about 1.5 trillion defense and spy budget. 1.5 trillion against 7 billion. Well, I'll tell you what, the Iranians are getting a lot of mileage out of 7 billion.
Bang for their buck. Absolutely.
Boy.
And if you look at Iran too, they aren't in the top 30 in terms of a percentage of GDP spent on their military defenses. They just outthought the numbskulls of the Trump administration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have
and they have a $300 billion payday coming too. What are they going to do with that?
Yeah. Can you imagine having a $7 billion annual defense budget, bringing in a $300 billion payday? That's a nice return.
That's a hell of an army.
There's the art of the deal
ROI.
right there. There is the ROI for sure. So nice job, Hog's Breath. You may want to go back to weekend news anchoring on the Trump Tush Talker Network.
Yeah, didn't just lose the war. There's more at issue here than this. But I mean, accelerated Iran to the hegemon of the region.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, gave Iran everything it wanted as far as being able to control the strait, control its neighbors, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Iraq had already had, of course, and then openly diminish United States position to the world. The emperor has no clothes, folks.
Right, destroy the petrodollar, destroy America's military, destroy America's credibility. It's pretty tall cotton for a weekend newscaster and alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Highly
in 2 years.
High achievement.
Not even 2 years.
Yeah,
in less than 2 years.
I always figured that you can. What takes years to build something, you can destroy it in a matter of moments.
Oh,
Hog's Breath is
absolutely. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I love this. This is the woman, the brunette there. She's the woman that Trump was had that interview with in the barn, surrounded by all those nice tractors and everything. Really a nice barn, and it was raining outside. So he said, I got angry because it was raining outside. I guess he's like the Wicked Witch and the Wizard of Oz. He melts in the rain. And then he got up. He threw off his lavalier mic. He hit the chair on the way out. Cursed this woman. So it was really interesting. She was given the first interview as to what actually happened, and the great catering cart
Caper.
caper.
It's catering cart
there,
caper.
Thank you. Yeah, the catering cart caper. Yep, I was lost for that last word. I appreciate you. That's the mind, they say, is the second thing to go. So the fact is that the catering cart caper, she was given the actual scoop of it. And what is just astonishing here is that, first of all, they had 2 Air Force Ones on the ground in Ankara, Turkey, 2. And they had already decided they weren't going to fly the one that was the $400 billion-dollar or $400 million gift of the Qataris out, because it cost something in the range of 5, 6, 7 times that amount to retrofit to make it an Air Force One, but it doesn't pass muster, so they don't want to fly it. So they brought in a second. So it's probably the only place ever that there were 2 747s serviceable as Air Force One in the same place. Trump got on the old one, flew in the new one, got on in the old one. They had, when he boarded, he did the wave and everything else. They had him and the last 2 went on with him go directly through to a catering cart. They actually had the area closed off. They put him inside the catering cart because they had to roll the catering cart over the bridge into the catering truck. So he actually had to sit into that catering cart. And they had 2 people go with him. You know the 2 people that went with him on, and it wasn't even one of the Air Force One 747s. Ava Braun, Little Miss X Graphics, the one that creates all these graphics of like Trump standing between Patton and MacArthur as a great general.
Yeah,
she,
the nanny.
The nanny for the old fart. That and his butler. The guy, that was that lied to Congress, lied to the FBI on the stolen top secret files in Mar-a-Lago. His personal butler. So his nanny and his butler were the only 2 that Trump tried to spare, and they whisked him out while they decided they would play the rest of the U.S. press corps and all of the other White House staffers. Secretary of Treasury was there, for example. Secretary of State Rubio was there. All of them with a threat that was credible enough that they were going to whisk the dumpster away and fly him out in another airplane because they thought that this airplane was going to be shot down. They went ahead and allowed the press corps and the White House staff and cabinet members to stay on that airplane because it made it a more effective decoy. If they sacrificed their lives. This is the scum we're dealing with here.
Yeah, the most important people in your life. I mean, if I'm running for my life, if I need to get away and I'm going to take my nanny and my butler for sure. Those are the most 2 important people in my life for survival, right?
Yeah, the nanny and the butler, yes, because the nanny does all of his. It's actually the nanny and the locker room attendant at Trump's golf courses that collectively do the Trump Truth social posts. So he had to have, she's the graphic artist and he's the wordsmith. So speaking, of course, for the President of the United States, nothing wrong with that picture at all. And and his valet, his butler.
So the guy who cleans the spikes on his golf shoes.
The guy that cleans the spikes on his golf shoes and the guy that cleans his toilet. Those are the, and they're, by the way, the only 2 that spend any time around him in the evening because Melania is never to be found around the White House. So it's just the 2 of them that are, the 3 of them together are a love triangle. That's who he traveled out with. It is just, I mean, you cannot write it.
No, you couldn't make this up.
You could not make this up. That you can have, I have led people most of my my life, been responsible for people most of my my life, and been captain of large vessels, airline transport pilot, captain of airplanes, and been founding CEOs of public companies. And when you accept responsibility like that, the people that are serving with you, who are working with you, are your priority. The old adage, the captain goes down with the ship. Well, that's really not the idea. The idea is get everybody off and and then you're the last one that gets off and safe.
Yes.
But that's, and it's get the airplane down so that everybody can walk away, you included. But you don't grab the parachute and jump out and tell everybody else in the airplane, enjoy the crash.
Right.
This is what he did is a sign that he does not have the character to be in a position of leadership, even if he were running a burger stand. Because if there were a burger stand and there were a fire in that burger stand, he would jump out and then close the door on everybody else that was in there. He's that kind of guy. That's your MAGA.
Got to be a South Park episode coming up.
Oh man, is there going to be a South Park episode of the great food cart caper, catering cart caper, to keep it in the proper alliteration. Cater cart caper. That's not easy to say.
No, it's not. And the worst part is that they're okay with it. I mean, the cabinet, they're okay with it.
Oh, no, I don't think they are. I don't think they are. No, I mean, there is also, by the way, it appears too that Hog's Breath was in the non-decoy airplane. No, Rubio knows that he was sacrificed.
Right, but I mean, he's not walking away from his job. He's okay.
Well, no,
with
because
it.
The reason he won't walk away from his job is he thinks there's a 1% chance that Trump is not going to continue to be president through the next election cycle, and that he would beat Eyeliner Boy for the nomination. So Rubio is in it for one thing and one thing only: that everything Rubio does, because Rubio is not used as Secretary of State. He is not used as a national security advisor. So he's there for one reason and one reason only, and that is because they don't want to have a lame duck perception. So he and Eyeliner Boy are the two that are vying for the opportunity to run for POTUS 48. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
That's why he's practicing being president of Venezuela.
That's why he's practicing. Yeah, he is. He's currently president of Venezuela, and he wants to be president of Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and he could be president of Greenland too, so he could have 3 presidential stars while Hog's Breath is president of Iran. Why not? Trump's president. Trump's prime minister of Israel.
Hmm.
They've all got lots of cards in the game.
This is bizarre.
It is really, really bizarre. Satan has got to be embarrassed.
Yeah, I would think.
All right. Well, this is interesting. It's a shame that Americans are so, and Europeans are so easy to fool, that they're all PO'd at Putin and Russia for invading Ukraine, and they are completely ignorant of the deal that the U.S. and Europe and NATO made with Russia, going back to James Baker when he was Secretary of State, where the promise was made: if you, Russia, give up East Germany and East Berlin, that was a big damn ask, and allow Germany to be unified again, then we promise we will not increase the footprint of NATO or move NATO 1 inch closer to Russia. And of course, since then, there's been like 30 additions to NATO, all of which are closer to Russia. That was the deal. Russia gave up a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
Germany was unified. And then the U.S. did what the U.S. does. It lied. But that's not the end of it. Then George Bush said, we're going to make Ukraine part of NATO. That was the breadbasket of Russia. It's just, it's kissing cousin to Moscow. I mean, it's Kiev is probably the closest major city to Moscow. It was untenable that George Bush could say such a thing, but he did. And then when asked about Russia's response, he says, I don't care. Of course they hate it, but what do I care? And then NATO began to do almost all of its military games in Ukraine. And we were back to the Cuban Missile Crisis, this time, though, played by idiots. Devastating. And then it got worse with Victoria Nuland and John McCain and Lindsey Graham arming the revolutionaries to overthrow the popularly elected government of Ukraine, which was pro-Russian. And then the International Monetary Fund bribed the Ukrainians and said, we'll give you money on better terms than the Russians were loaning you money. But you'll be under our influence. And now we had a government that America had imposed through regime change. And the moment that occurred, the CIA and NATO began to give weapons to the most Nazified factions of Ukraine to go and bludgeon ethnic Russians in the Eastern Oblasts. And they did. This is a scene from that. And they were murdering ethnic Russians.
Yes.
Anybody that spoke Russian, they would kill. And then John McCain and Lindsey Graham are on videotape speaking to these same goons and telling them that we'll up the ante. We're going to give you enough weapons, not just to go off to the Eastern ethnic Russians in Ukraine, but against Russia itself. You're going to go kill some Ruskies. And we'll arm you, and your war will be our war. We'll give you whatever weapons you need to go over and conquer Russia. And they're on video. I've played it a bunch of times, telling the Ukrainians long before Putin responded that they can go kill some Ruskies with American weapons. We started that war. And then it was the Ukraine that bombed the Nord 2 Stream pipeline. And then we lied about it. The Americans lied and made it sound like that it was the Russians who were the aggressors. And 80% to 90% of the people in the West, in America and Europe, are so easily fooled, so ignorant, so irrational. They blame Russia and think that Ukraine is defending itself, as opposed to Ukraine is nothing but a bribed proxy. So it is a genuinely astonishing situation that there is this much ignorance about a war that has killed 2 million people and is fundamentally changing the face of the world and has us on the precipice of World War III.
Mm-hmm.
And right now it is an annihilation. The Russians have Ukraine completely surrounded and unable to replenish anything and unable to sell anything. So it's a really bad situation. And it's all caused by the United States. We are the bad guys, not the Russians.
How did America get so stupid? Honest to God.
One of the when I hear that question, the first thing I go to is the realization that more than 5 years ago, you knew, reported, and proved that the overthrow of Assad by arming Islamic terrorist groups was the purpose of the CIA, and that they had orchestrated this and had been working on it for 20 years. And yet America thinks that they weren't responsible. America wants to fuss over what happened in Benghazi and not talk about why there was the unprovoked and inhuman destruction of Libya for absolutely no reason other than Muammar Gaddafi was ready to have a gold-backed currency to eliminate the petrodollar in Africa. This is what we do. Or that, as I did 10,000 radio programs to prove that George Bush lied about Afghanistan and Iraq. And millions of people died. The United States is scum. I mean, that's just the bottom line. The United States is absolutely scum. Nothing it says is true. And it's the most murderous regime on the planet. You want terrorists? Look at Washington, D.C.
Yeah, they have no problem. They have no problem here using actual Nazis to support them and going and killing people inside their own country. You know,
Correct.
I mean, that's exactly what this is.
That's what
These
happened
guys
in
with the
Ukraine.
yellow.
But they used the Islamic State. They created, the U.S. government created the Islamic State and then deployed the Islamic State to go oust Assad. The United States created Al-Qaeda to go bludgeon Russians.
Yeah.
There is no morality in the CIA or the Department of Defense or the White House. None. It doesn't matter who's president. Always the same. You know, anytime I see a woman wearing a hijab, I just want to puke and turn it off. Unfortunately, this woman was forced to wear it. I don't know if she would have worn it otherwise. But she is one of hundreds of millions of Muslim women who have been murdered because they were raped. In the Qur'an, if a woman accuses a man of any kind of malfeasance, if she cannot get 4 men to testify on her behalf, then her admittance that she had been raped or beaten or abused or robbed is now viewed as a confession. And she is to be whipped to death or otherwise killed. So if you are raped as a Muslim woman, the rapist has nothing to worry about. Never be imprisoned, never have anything done to him. But the woman who was raped, she will be murdered. It's actually worse than that, and that sounds pretty bad. And by the way, a man can rape a 3-year-old girl, a 5-year-old girl. He can be a pedophile. He can rape his own daughter, be incestuous. He can commit acts of murder, any of these things. The reason it's worse than this is because Muhammad did these things. So it's Sharia law authorizes men to abuse women in this way and children. The voice of Allah is Muhammad. And so Allah authorized Muhammad's behavior as a man who was incestuous, a pedophile, and a rapist, as well as a mass murdering terrorist and slave trader. And therefore, all of these activities are not only legal in Islam, they are considered exemplary because Muhammad did them and Allah endorsed them. Now it gets worse because had it not been for the abuse of women and giving men the divine sanction to rape women, Islam wouldn't exist. The motivation for jihad was that you get to rape the women of your victims and you get to enslave their children. And if you're killed in the process, the reward for you is an unending stream of perpetual virgins and a brothel in the sky. It's the motivation for the most deadly and destructive religion in human history. And yet Marxists promote this religion. That's how stunningly stupid the world has become. Now, everything I've said, I have verified 1,000 times over. Go to yahowah.com, go to the bottom of the book page, and you'll find the 5 volumes, each 825 pages in length. documenting everything I have said, proving it beyond any doubt, absolute, irrefutable documentation that Islam is a death cult and that it is misogynist and it was founded by a pedophile who was a rapist.
Yeah, I don't know that we can expect anything from what's Allah's main gig. I mean, he's hanging women by meat hooks down in hell because they're not appreciative of their husbands, right? That's their crime because they don't appreciate their husbands enough.
According to Muhammad.
And what this does is it's simple population control because I mean what these systems try to do is break up and one group from another, right? And this is the best because it automatically separates between male and female. You know, where this population group is going to have control over this other, so they're automatically divided.
Yeah. Well, so does Christianity and so does Judaism.
Sure.
Religions, so does Hinduism. Religions do that. That's why God said, I regret having created humans.
I don't really blame him.
Yeah, I don't blame him. We're obnoxious. Humans are obnoxious the way they treat people, particularly the way they treat women. All right, what do we got? Yeah, I see this post all the time. I obey God. I believe God. Huge difference. Yes, Alexander Duncan. Yeah, well, I know God. And so I do neither. I don't believe in God. I know him. And therefore I do not obey him. I listen to him. There you go. That's the difference between knowing and believing, between being free and being controlled, being useful and being useless.
Free will or slavery? Which is your
being
choice?
In a religion or being in a relationship. So, Duncan, you can dunk it where the sun don't shine. This is an interesting poster. It gets actually very, very detailed in the more section on it, but it's on abrogation. Abrogation is 2106 in the Qur'an, and it says in essence that when Allah is always plural, they got that from the rabbis. When we come up with an idea that's better than the edict that we had revealed previously, then the new one obliterates the old one, nullifies it, and the more recent one is the one that counts. Now, of course, if you're a rational person, you would immediately say, well, then you're an idiot. You've claimed that your Quran was written in its entirety perfectly before the universe was created. So there can't be a old one that we have annulled. Can't be. So you have just destroyed the entire basis of your religion, if you're thinking.
Yeah.
And then you have the problem of the fact that the second surah was about the 75th, 76th of the surahs revealed. In other words, 2/3 of them had already been revealed, so that 2/3 of the Quran is now nullified. Why not just throw it away? Why do you keep it?
Well, they lost me at the blood clot.
Oh, yeah, well, of course. Well, that was the first one. But the first one was revealed in the 96th surah. Yes, that this is a demonic spirit that was trying to kill Muhammad and frightened him to the point he wanted to commit suicide, to the point he also admitted that he was demon-possessed during the encounter, told him to read, but he was illiterate. He says, I can't read. I'm illiterate. Read! And then they said, what am I supposed to read? And then it said that that which is taught by the pen. Well, this is the problem you have here. because if the pen delivered all of this, then you can't have an abrogation because, well, it was all done before any of this stuff happened, so there could not have been an abrogation. And then it says that your Lord created man from a coagulated clot of blood, which of course is
pretty good, Trig.
True. It's not true. And that's in the second half of the 96th surah. So the Quran is a jumbled mess. Now, the other problem with abrogation was two more problems that I want to bring up with abrogation. One is that a God who contradicts himself cannot be trusted.
Anyone else? Yeah.
So he is admitting that I'm contradicting myself so much that I have to have a rule as to how to handle my contradictions. Therefore, that kind of God cannot be trusted. That's the problem with Christianity, of course, is that the God of Christianity contradicts the actual God, and that kind of God cannot be trusted. Now, the other problem is that the Quran is a jumbled mess. You know, the second surah was one of the last revealed, and yet it's number 2. Number 1 was never revealed. And the last surah revealed was number 5. The second last was number 9. And here, the 96 we just heard was the first. So the Quran is a jumbled mess. So how are you supposed to tell which ones were revealed first?
You find a guy who puts it in chronological order.
You do, and I know a guy that did that. That's the whole basis.
I read his book.
Yeah, that's the whole basis of goddamn religion. Is that I reorder the Quran chronologically. I provide 5 of the most famed and highly revered translations of the Quran, plus I provide my own. And then I set the Quran into the context of Muhammad's life using the Hadith, which are actually more credible than the Quran because they have documentation. They come with who said them to whom, where the Quran does not. But yet the Quran was spoken by the same person to the same audience and maintained the same way. It just doesn't have the documentation that comes with the Hadith. And they all tell the same story. But I reorder the Quran chronologically, set it in the context of Muhammad's life, provide 6 translations of the Quran, sometimes as many as 15 and 20 translations when it's really an interesting statement, and prove emphatically that Islam is a death cult, that it's a terrorist manifesto, that Allah is not a God and Muhammad was not a prophet. But the 2106 abrogation is particularly vile. And what Muslims will do with it is they'll say, well, you know, there's peaceful verses in the Quran. Yeah, but the peaceful verses all came early and they've all been abrogated, and you know that. So why do you say that? And the ones that came later say, you kill them wherever they are. Doesn't matter who they are, you just kill them. You know, kill, kill, kill. Allah loves a good kill. Allah is a terrorist. Be terrorists. So this is the nature of Islam. It is not in dispute. Can't be argued. The nature of the religion. I would claim it's the dumbest religion ever. And that the Quran is the worst book ever written. But, you know, there's some stout competition. I mean, Mormonism, Scientology, the New Testament's not very bright. The Talmud's really stupid. But, you know, the Talmud is essentially the Quran. Everything in the Quran that has a religious veneer came from the Talmud, all of it. So, what a mess. And then you have the cost of that mess being in the first 100 years of Islam, 200 million people being killed by the initial Muslims. Islam had killed 200 million people before the first Quran was printed.
Wow.
Well,
And
maybe
you can
like
still
the
see
Marxist.
where they were, because they haven't relinquished any of those countries. They're look at the Muslim and Arab countries that go from Africa all the way into Asia. It's a huge swath of the world, and it was all under the basis of convert or die. And sometimes we don't really want you to convert because your children are worth too much as slaves, and our men are motivated by raping your women, and we want to steal what you have. So we don't want you to convert. We really would much prefer to kill you. That's why they killed 200 million people. It was a third of the Earth's population at the time. And they continued to wage war for almost a millennia. And now they're back at it through terror.
I was going to say maybe it's like the Marxists that they just haven't done Marxism right yet. They just need to keep practicing, right? Islam
so
is just like
they keep on practicing. There won't be any humans left because Mao
yes.
Zedong, he practiced. He killed about 80 million, and then you had Lenin and Stalin. They practiced. They killed about 70 million. Yeah, keep on practicing. Then you had Hitler. That war led to the deaths of about 55 million. Yeah, just keep on letting his socialist practice. They'll really get good at it. This map in the background here is what's so amazing. That map you might think is of the Qur'an, of Ukraine. These are the Nazi units in Ukraine long before Russia went in to defend the eastern oblasts. But you look at the back. Look how much of Russia they're taking. You see the border of Ukraine and how much of Russia they are intending to conquer. That's all the way up into Moscow. In Belarus. That was the plan, and they were going to use American weapons and American funding and American encouragement to go do that.
Yeah.
That was America's plan, and they were using scum to carry it out. You want to complain about the Ukraine? Point your finger at the White House and the Department of Defense and the CIA of America. They are responsible, and they had a helping hand from MI6 and from the heads of Europe, particularly UK. But that's what this is all about. And the country that just fries my cookies on this one is Germany and all their vitriol towards Russia. Those assholes sent in the Barbarossa posse, and it took 25 million Russians to finally throw them out after they had pillaged and raped and enslaved Russian after Russian brutally for no reason other than they thought they were better than everybody else. And for them now to go back after Russians, after Russia allowed them to reunify as a country, that's reprehensible to me. That means Germans, you learn nothing. And the UK, I mean, what the UK thinking about it? If the Russians hadn't beat the Germans and hadn't and had Hitler not made the mistake of attacking the Germans, the UK wouldn't exist anymore.
No, it's true.
Yeah. You should be thanking the Russians, not trying to kill them. And, the United States, they wants to claim victory in World War II, and you didn't win anything. You had a terrible strategy of waiting around in the UK, smoking cigars and drinking scotch for 2 years while Jews died in concentration camps. You didn't do squat. And then you had the dumbest move of all time. We're going to go and attack where they are the best fortified. We're going to lose a bunch of Americans. And then we're going to dilly-dally while the Russians ultimately win the war for us. Then we're going to claim victory and leave. And we'll leave Europe in worse shape than we found it otherwise, because the Soviet Union was more abusive of Europeans than was Hitler. Yeah, this is the picture. This has Eva Braun and the valet. Just amazing what happened here. It just
the fallout from this.
There's Hog's Breath. You can play it. You don't need the, but
This is
it
unreal.
is.
Holy smoke! You know who's having a bad moment?
Yeah, there she is. There's Ava Braun, and that guy that you put the arm around. That's the valet. That is all that was escorted off the decoy, with all the rest of the White House cabinet staff and the press corps left on the plane that they thought was going to be shot down.
Nate, good luck, guys.
His mistress and his butler.
Yep. Yeah, the valet. That was Walt Nata and Miss X, Ava Braun. Boy, America, you should be so proud. Yay, MAGA.
This is funny. This is
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah, they're kissing the ground here, men and women, because they've been lied to and say this is the ground that Muhammad walked on. Muhammad was never in Mecca. Mecca didn't even exist when Muhammad was alive. The Kaaba was a rock pile and Petra. Petra had been a thriving metropolis and was famous for doing what Mecca was credited for, being a watering hole for caravans and being a very religious center. Because Petra is properly situated. You're going to sail all the way up the Gulf of Aqaba, and you're going to disembark there and take camels from the northern tip of Gulf of Aqaba into the Mediterranean. It's the shortest route. There is no one in their right mind that's going to get off the trading ships anywhere in Yemen or Arabia and go over that desert in camels all the way up, when the only intelligent way to go would be to stay right on the boats and go all the way up to the northern tip of the Gulf of Aqaba. And if you do that, you'll come right into Petra. It's in that Great Barrier Reef rift there. And it was famous for all of those things. But
Petra had fresh water.
Well, they did up to a point. The aqueduct that the Nabateans built there in Petra crumbled, as did the whole city. Was destroyed. There was an earthquake in the 4th century, and it obliterated the place, such that it was just not. Now it wasn't just a rock pile to rock gods, which was the nature of the Kaaba, because everything fell apart. But the conditions were so bad that it became a sunny place for shady people. And you had everybody that was trying to run from Rome would hang out there. So you just had a mix of nutcases there. And that's where the original rock pile to rock gods was, the Kaaba. It was just in the ruins of other former temples. And that's the reason why, if you go to Petra, you'll find the first mention ever of Allah is actually in Petra. And you also find the other Quranic gods, particularly Allat, Manat, and Al-Uzza. They were the main gods in Petra. So Muhammad was never in Mecca. It didn't exist at the time. He was in Petra, and he went from Petra to Yathrib. Yathrib is today's Medina. And in Yathrib, he became genocidal, and he imposed apartheid, and he was the scum of scum. But that's the two places that he was at, no others. And here you have people kissing the ground where a man walked who, according to their own scriptures, was a mass murderer, a slave trader, a pedophile. He was incestuous. He was a rapist. He was a liar. He was a thief. He was sadistic. And that's the ground they're kissing. That's just amazing what religion will do to people's minds.
They probably got to pay to get into this place, right? I mean, it's not like it's just. So it's the same. It's the same shtick that started Islam with the whole pray to get in, to pray to the rock gods, right? You pay to. So
well, you know, there's the scam that was the tribe of Beni Hashem, which was Muhammad's tribe,
the cleaning
which Muhammad was Jewish. And the Nabateans, Petra is stone's throw from Jerusalem. I guess that makes the ride of the winged ass a lot more credible, because it could have maybe made the leap. But the fact is that the gig was, if you have a rock god, you can store your rock god with us. We'll provide housing, watering services, feeding services, for dusting services, even for your rock god. Your rock god will be safe with us, and you can water your camels and have care and feeding for your rock god. That was the whole thing of the Kaaba, and all of the rites and rituals of Islam, the prostration, butt-up prayer, the Hajj pilgrimage, all of it, including the Kaaba itself, all of it is part of the pagan religious scam of Muhammad's clan, which were Jewish, in Petra around the Kaaba. It all made it into Islam wholesale.
Yeah, is it the Qur'an verse that says reorientate your kippas? It's not hard, because they had to move them all because.
And that one was written. There was right after Muhammad's death, and they had the War of Compulsion. There were two rival forces of Islam. One that became the Sunni and Shia rift now. One that claimed that Abu Bakr and his clan were the rightful heirs, because they're the ones who had, he gave up his 6-year-old daughter to be sexually abused by Muhammad, so he had skin in the game. That they are the ones who should run Islam, because it was a criminal enterprise, and being the godfather was a very lucrative deal. And then you had those who were descendants of Muhammad's adopted son, the one that he stole his wife in an incestuous affair. They thought that even though there was no real genetic connection, that they still wanted to claim it, that they were the rightful heirs, that it should be passed down that way. And so they fought a battle, and in fighting the battle, the rest of Petra was officially destroyed, and they needed to move the Kaaba to have control that they wanted to impose on the losing side. And since it was nothing but a rock pile of rock gods, moving it was a weekend's worth of work. And they built it in Mecca, is where they relocated it. And once they did, the line was added: change your Qibla. This is not going to be difficult for you. Reorient your orientation of bowing. And what you see is that the mosques that were built before that war were all angled towards Petra. And then once that war was fought and they moved the Kaaba, they changed the orientation of every mosque towards what is now Mecca. So
this sounds simple. You're like by degrees, but if you're east of Petra when this change happens, you have to do a 180-degree change to Mecca, right?
180, but it's a lot. It's a lot. And the proof from what I'm saying is overwhelming. And it's also overwhelming because Mecca is only mentioned once in the Quran, and actually twice, but one of the two times it's Becca. And Becca is the place where Rome had its largest shrine to the Lord. In fact, I think it was the largest Roman temple anywhere, was in the Becca Valley. So they got that dead ass wrong. And the other, it's not located, it's just a town that is mentioned, but it's mentioned in an addition because the Quran actually had not been written prior to all this occurring. So it was just easy for them to say, well, we'll just change your Qibla. We got a new Qibla, we abrogated the old one. Why would you have to do that unless you moved it? Well, they moved it. And of course, there isn't anything around Mecca that fits the narrative in of the religion of throwing the rocks at Satan and the cave of Ramadan and all that sort of stuff. But it all exists around Petra.
Oh, Muhammad trying to commit suicide by jumping off the heights. The
Yeah.
whole thing is
Flat.
not more than 10 foot off the ground anywhere, right?
Yeah, it's flat. It's the whole thing of Mecca is and putting the blankie over the piece of shit, that ugly piece of shit that's the Kaaba, and of course it's black stone that's all fractured, which is nothing but a meteorite that's supposed to represent Allah, because he was by the time that Muhammad had prevailed over his clan, then he deserved the biggest stone, and the biggest stone was the black stone, and that's why it's the corner of the Kaaba. But if you're a Muslim, you're being played for a fool.
Mhm.
But if you're a Christian, you're being played for a fool. If you're a practitioner of Judaism, you're being played for a fool. If you're Hindu, you're being played for a fool. If you're a Marxist, you're being played for a fool. So a lot of fools out there. What's about between all of those, and then you add the conspiratorialists to that, you probably have 8.2 of the 8.3 billion people on the planet today. And you have a few animists that you can throw into that mix, and other wackos of various types. Oh, so this you're seeing all the time now. The Brookings Institute estimates that Trump's inaction is responsible for 70% of COVID deaths. Trump's deaths, 783,044. This is such bullshit. Good God, I don't think there's anybody on this planet that can think. Everything about COVID is a lie. Everything about COVID is a lie. Its inception, it was obviously manufactured in the Wuhan Virology Institute.
Yeah.
It is obviously documented in their published periodicals in the scientific community of how they tried to blend bats with Ebola, bats with HIV, and bats with SARS viruses together. And then they worked on and published their research that was funded by the United States at the behest of Fauci to improve the attachment, the crown, which is the attachment mechanism of the virus, so that it be more effective as that virus is spread between humans. It would increase the RO component of it. And that all of that was going on, and they had a lab accident. And it got out. And at that time, the Chinese knew exactly what that virus was because they had all the research notes on it. They destroyed all of that, and they developed their vaccines based upon it and beat the rest of the world by 9 months to a year on vaccines, and then deliberately allowed people out of Wuhan to the world to infect the rest of the world with this virus that they had manufactured with Americans' monetary support. The whole beginning of it was nothing but a lie, and everybody in the scientific community was lying about what I just told you, even though I reported that to you in February of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I proved it back then. And yet they all said that was a lie. But it turned out, no, it wasn't a lie. It was the truth. And now everybody knows it's the truth. Well, anybody with their head out of their tuchus knows it's the truth. So the whole inception of it was a lie. Then the next part of it was a lie is that that it should be integrated within the healthcare system as opposed to isolated from it. And so they brought the first COVID victims into the hospitals where people were already dying of other morbidities, and they killed them. And then they blamed the deaths on people that were dying from heart disease and vascular disease and diabetes and all of these other morbidities. They blamed their deaths on COVID, when we now know that 90% of the deaths attributed to COVID were actually caused by another morbidity. 90%. So there wasn't, 70% of, it's 70% of nothing. When you get down to it, it's 70% of nothing. And it was caused because of the fact that we brought the sick people into the hospital where people were already dying of other ailments, as opposed to quarantining them. We were stupid. And that the people that spread it initially were religious numbskulls, like in Korea, they were the Messianic Christian numbskulls, and in New York, they were the Haredi numbskulls. And they spread it amongst themselves by continuing to be religious as if a virus isn't contagious. And then when they got sick, the government brought them into hospitals where people were dying. And then they came up with the way that you resolve it. The action to resolve it made it worse, which is segregating people, telling people you have no more freedom. You can't leave your house. You can't go to work. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go to a store. You have to wear a mask. And you can't even go to your job. They destroyed economies, and economies are what feed people and keep people alive. They destroyed livelihoods. They destroyed freedom. They destroyed even the will to live. So now that's the fourth mistake that they have made in the name of science. And then the fifth one is they came up with this stupid idea of manipulating your DNA as opposed to creating an actual vaccine. They came up with an idea, we're going to manipulate DNA to respond, and that vaccine worked for about 2 weeks against the original strand. And when the original strain of COVID mutated, as they always did, it didn't even last a week. So they made you get a second and a third vaccine when none of the vaccines worked. And in doing so, they did great harm to the credibility of vaccines that were actually beneficial to people, which is a devastating consequence to human health.
Yeah.
And they destroyed the credibility of science by politicizing it the way they did. And they gave people a false sense of security. And then they ran fear porn. Every day was a death count. And they didn't announce until the end that, yeah, well, okay, well over 90%, 95% of those that we listed as having died of COVID actually died with multiple of other comorbidities and would have died anyway. The whole thing was a lie, including the Brookings Institute number here and your post, Sarah M. It's all a damn lie, every bit of it. In the end, COVID was only slightly worse than the average flu. It's a little slightly worse because the triggering mechanism had been more effective. Slightly worse because it was a blend of HIV, SARS, and Ebola. Slightly worse because we did everything wrong. But otherwise, the mortality rate was about 1 in 1,000, which is typical. And the reason we know 1 in 1,000 is that they finally did surveys of entire communities to find out how many people were actually infected versus people who died. And what they found is that 85% of the people that were infected with COVID had no symptoms. They were asymptomatic. So they were never reported as having it. When you actually did the math then based upon knowing that, it was less than 1%. And, the victims were older people, people in poor health, and younger people. There you go. That's the story. The rest of it's fear porn and control, and we destroyed faith in politics, vaccines, and medicine, and the scientific community, all destroyed. That's your villain here. Now, was Trump an idiot? Yeah. I'm not defending Trump. What I'm doing is I'm attacking those people who are making these kinds of claims because you don't know what you're talking about.
I got a lot of Torah read during that time. Just saying, it worked out all right for me.
But you were already an isolator.
Yes.
Yeah. COVID was made for people like you and my wife and for Rich and for Perry. You guys were already in isolation mode. You like isolation. Mm-hmm. And something, I realized that you have a better plan. I'm going to full on isolation when this is all over. I've had a talk with the boss. I said, I've earned the right to be an introvert. When this is all
It's
over,
a
I'm going to
really big
isolation mode.
universe out there.
It's a really big universe out there, and I'm going to find myself a corner of it. Thank you very much. Yeah. This is a sober assessment of missile development and drone development by a senior officer in the IRGC. He's not bragging. What he's just saying is true. Because Iran prepared for what it taunted and played Israel and the United States into doing. I mean, Iran played Israel into demolishing Gaza because they knew that what would happen to Israel in doing so. They actually played Israel into attacking Iran not once but twice. It was in Iran's interest. Look what happened. I mean, they played it perfectly. But so what Iran did is that if they had anything that was important to Iran's survival, they replicated it and they buried it. So you want to bomb Iran, you're going to bomb buildings that once housed things that don't house anything anymore. Everything is replicated and buried. So you can say, well, we destroyed Iran's nuclear capability by attacking 2 sites. Well, there's 40 sites that we know of, and that 40 probably covers 1/4 of the total number of sites.
Oh, Pickaxe Mountain is the meme now. Something we'd never even heard of before. And there's like, oh, we got to go get Pickaxe Mountain.
Yeah.
Jokers.
Why? Well, what's the purpose? The centrifuges necessary to refine uranium to a fissile purity of 235. This little library I'm in, you could put 2 sets of them here, and you could run them with a standard car motor. And you could make all the uranium you needed for nuclear bombs. And Iran is self-sufficient. They make their own centrifuges. So they bury them all over the place. There's at least 40 locations that we know of. There's probably a total of 3, 4, 5 times that number. And I can assure you that to the extent that Fodor was damaged, and by damaged, it would have only been damaged by a pressure wave. There was no way for the U.S. penetrators to have gone through that much granite and then reinforced concrete to have blown up Fordo or Nance or any of the others. But if they were to have actually hit a ventilation shaft, and if the penetrator went down the ventilation shaft to a point that the ventilation shaft opens into one of the larger rooms. And if that larger room was not sealed off from other rooms, and if the exterior of the building was all sealed off, you could create a pressure wave which would kill anybody in there, and that would make it impossible to inhabit at the time. Might damage some stuff, but it's just a pressure wave. It's nothing else. But if you did that, then, and let's say that they had not removed the uranium-235, which was 415, 430 kilograms, that people now saying there's 430 pounds. No, it's well over 1,000 pounds. Then what you would have done is you would have, right out that same ventilation shaft that you went down, you would have spewed out uranium-235. You'd have killed a bunch of people. But we know from the satellite pictures that the Iranians moved it, that they knew we were coming. They had taunted America into it. And in the week prior to the attack, they moved it. And they moved it to not one, but many different locations. And the Pickaxe Mountain may be one of the many. But they moved it. And so you cannot take out their nuclear ambition from the air. And you can't take it out from the ground because they have too many people. And The other issue is what they decided to do with their military. And remember now, their entire military budget's down there in the 7 billion annual range.
Billion.
They replicated everything. So if they're going to make drones, they're not going to make drones in one place. They're going to make drones in 100 places. If they're going to make missiles, it's not one place. They're going to make them in 50 places. And then they're going to bury all of those places. So they're going to be under mountains. And then on top of all of that, the next thing they're going to do is have multiples of them. They're going to bury them. And then they're going to take their deployment, the launchers and that sort of thing, and they're going to put them all around the country, and many of them in the eastern part of the country where nobody has access to. There's nothing anybody can do about it. And what he's saying here is that they manufacture far more missiles than they're firing. They're better armed. The more they fire, the better armed they become. It's the opposite of the United States. The more we fire, the less we can do going forward. So
They've been doing this for 20 years, preparing for this.
burying it, duplicating it, and then hiding the deployment of the systems. There you
Yeah,
go.
it's fascinating how effective actual defense can be for the amount of money that you put in. It's the second that you want to try to get out of your own borders and go knock on somebody else's door and kick sand and stuff, that it becomes expensive, right? It becomes very taxing on us. The second you stay inside your own borders and just worry about other people coming to you, it's kind of cheap.
That's one of the reasons I have said for years that America did not need a military.
Mm-hmm.
There's no nation on earth that has the ability to project a force, including the United States. The United States can't even project a force anymore. And no other nation even wants to try to project a force.
Mm-hmm.
And with the Second Amendment, America would have been impossible to invade and occupy. So there was no purpose of having a Department of Defense, which is what Thomas Jefferson, that's why he spoke out against it. You don't need one.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Second Amendment, you don't need a Department of Defense, and Department of Defense is going to be devastating for the country. So you cannot justify the military of the United States. And America is not protecting itself from anybody, because you can't invade and occupy the United States with Americans being armed. So what's the purpose in any of this?
Mm-hmm.
Defending a country is not all that difficult if you're smart about it. I mean, America doesn't bury anything other than it creates bunkers for its politicians because they're special, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
My whole adult life, we've talked about Russia has nuclear weapons. We have nuclear weapons. We have this treaty. Then all of a sudden China had them, and then all of a sudden, then we even later Korea has them. Australia probably has them, and all our allies have them. NATO countries have them, and we're all told that with this mutual destruction ability, that nobody will use that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they care about Iran?
Yeah, they don't. It has.
I know it's always something behind something, but
no, it has nothing to do with Iran and having a nuclear weapon. Never has.
No.
Iran is the richest country in the world in terms of oil and gas.
Yeah, in the Straits.
It's the richest in the world.
Yeah.
There's the lie that it was Venezuela, but Venezuela's crude is too heavy. Most people can't even refine it. It's too expensive to extract, and it has very little use. Iran's the best source in the world of light crude, and it's a huge source of uranium and many other rare earths. So it's the same thing as Russia. The reason that the Ukraine war, the proxy war, is because America's oligarchs wanted to control the wealth of Russia, and they want to control the wealth of Iran. That's why those two countries in particular were picked. It had nothing to do with Iran having a nuclear bomb. Nothing. and Americans die and the world starves, also that the oligarchs can have their scheme. And yet not a single one of them was smart enough to say, yeah, maybe this is a bad idea. What if things don't work out the way we think they're going to? Oh, that's not our sons. They're going to die anyway. So, and we'll make a fortune in the war because we'll own those stocks of military stocks. So we'll make a fortune in the war. And what do we care how many people die? So it's a win-win for us, regardless of how it turns out. That's
you're taking names, right? So when we get there later.
Yes. Yeah. I'm having a Malak spread out around the world. Yes, and they're taking names, and we're going to have a whole lot of concurrent trials.
Okay.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
And rightfully so. A lot of people are going to end up in hell that didn't think they were ever going to get caught. Elon is going to be among those.
Oh, yeah. I would think.
Trump, of course, is going to be the star attraction. Hog's breath, guaranteed reservation. I know this doesn't appeal to everyone. A lot of people are just sick of the whole abortion issue. I've taken an absolute consistent stand on it for as long as I've spoken publicly, which for my life now is about 30 years. And on that stand, what I have said is that everybody that is rational, moral, is both pro-life and pro-choice. So to be one or the other and to decide how you're going to define yourself and to govern a country based on one of the two is absurd, because every rational person in the world should be pro-life and pro-choice. I've also said that a woman does not have a right to control her body when she couldn't control her body, which got her into this mess. So if you want to claim that you have control over your body, then you should not have been irresponsible and got yourself into this mess, so that you want the government now to be your form of contraception. But the thing that's been really important to me is to convey that during the first trimester, there's no fetus that is viable outside of the woman. And therefore, while abortion is a horrible idea, both for the woman, of course, for the unborn child, it's pretty hard to say that a woman can't choose, particularly if she was raped or incest or that sort of thing, to get an abortion. And the third trimester, it's absolute unequivocal murder. That child is strictly defined based upon its location, not its viability. It's a baby, and it's viable. And to take its life is murder. The gray area is during that second trimester. And, if it were me, I wouldn't play very in that second trimester. I'd just say it's too much of a gray area for us to deal with mass murder. But we now have 10 states in the United States that are gleefully murdering children right to the moment of delivery. And there is no justification. I hear it's an OBGYN saying that he's delivered 20,500 babies and there's not a single fetal or maternal condition that requires a third trimester abortion. Not one. Delivery, yes. Abortion, no. You are demonic when you are taking the life of an innocent child. And you're even more demonic when you're celebrating it. There's something just tragic that has happened to young women today in particular, but also young men that have been indoctrinated in Marxism. You've lost your moral compass. It's disgusting.
Yeah, the issue for me is very much like any other left-wing kind of issue. I mean, I look at it like the issue with trans people and stuff. I don't care if you want to have an abortion. I just don't want to pay for it. I don't think other people should be forced in funding your bad decisions and behaviors. You know what I mean? So
I don't. No, I don't. No, I absolutely do not. If you don't care about protecting those who cannot protect themselves, you've destroyed your human card. You can be pissed, and I'm pissed, where our money is taken to do things we think are reprehensible, like our money is taken in taxes to go pay for a stupid war over in Iran, or a proxy war using Ukrainians to go kill Russians. And you can be as mad as I am about abortion used as a form of contraception by people who don't have the morality or the self-control to do it the old-fashioned way. But when you have a country that is authorizing the murder of children, you damn well better care. So it's not a I don't care about this, I only care about that. This is the murder of children. That's like not caring that Islam abuses women. I'm opposed to Islam for many reasons, one of which is it abuses women. They aren't in a position to protect themselves. It abuses them. If you don't care that 250 million Muslim girls have had their genitals mutilated, you've lost your human card. Yeah, you damn well better care. Excuse me for getting mad, but this is a real serious issue.
I understand that completely. Perhaps care wasn't the right word, because for me, if I care about something, I'm going to do something about it. Okay. Right. And speaking out against it is kind of where we are in a tangible of being it, because it's a very slippery slope for me as an alcoholic, that is, as soon as I start to get angry about something, I want to do something about something, then I make very poor decisions about doing something about something. And it's usually using our words is what we're taught here, not bullets and bombs, but because you can get angry to the point that I'm going to do something about it, and those aren't necessarily.
This is another issue that we need to be responsible enough, educated enough, disciplined enough to know how to wield words wisely. And if you aren't angry, then you're not being moral. So you have to be angry and you have to lash out at them. I'm going to condemn Planned Parenthood. I think it's a reprehensible thing in America. Yeah. And abortion is a reprehensible thing in America, particularly second and now third trimester abortions. They're murder. And I'm angry that we have a country that is celebrating murder. I'm angry that we have a country that is electing Marxists when Marxism has destroyed progress, economies, and freedom everywhere. I'm angry that we have a country that is electing Muslims when Islam is the most deadly and repressive, misogynist, slave-oriented religion in human history. Yes, and I not only use my words, I've written books about these things, and we do programs exposing and condemning these things. And we're going to use our words over the next 1,000 years to continue to expose and condemn these things.
In the very near future, there's going to be folks that have a lot of power that are more than just words to be able to make decisions for entire populations. Remember that. You're a flaming sword. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So I'm going to take them all out. I'm going to be happy to take them all out because I'm angry at them. And God is much angry at them than I am. That's why he said, I regretted creating humans. We are disgusting. And if you're not angry at them, that's wrong. God wants you to be angry at them, but it's knowing how to respond. And hate is a virtue. And to love, you have to hate, but you need to know how to hate and why to hate and when to hate and where to hate. And hating. Look at Israel responded to 10:7 of 23 by hating Hamas as opposed to Islam.
Yes.
And doing it with bullets and bombs as opposed to words. And they made a bad situation worse. America got frustrated over Iran's frustration with America and decided to lash out with bullets and bombs as opposed to working a different narrative out and destroyed America and the world. Look, we have to recognize that 99.9999% of the world is either a promoter of gross evil or accepts gross evil. And that there are very few of us, down in the range of 1 in a million, that will speak out against these things. And we don't speak out of these things to change the mindset of the people that are perpetrating them. We speak out against these things to free those who are influenced by them, such that a small percentage of them recognize that this person has the wherewithal, the courage, the confidence to speak out against these things and to be angry at the murder of babies and the maltreatment of women and the lies that perpetrate wars where millions die. That somebody is speaking out against these things, and he has a lot to say about God and how you can survive. And it's our job to speak out that way for that fringe that is capable of being salvaged. We're not doing it to change the Marxists that are Democrats today. We cannot affect them. The MAGAs that are pro-Trump today, you're not going to change them. The Twistians that are anti-Semites today are never going to change them. The Muslims that are jihadists, zero chance of changing. The conspiratorialists wouldn't listen to reason if their life depended on it. But there's a fringe that are influenced by these things that can be salvaged, that can be reached. It's one of the reasons why we've had 4 or 5 people that are on the fringe that have claimed to be part of the covenant that have gone into either conspiracy or they're pro-military or they've just become belligerent. And I've just 86 them to say, no, you're blocked. Goodbye. No, we have to be consistent. And our consistency must be that we do care, not because we can make a tangible difference in the world at this moment, but because God is relying on us to be able to prepare a team of people that can serve as those who are righteously indignant as to what they see that is wrong, but can be a moral bastion of what's right and guide that mortal remnant into the garden and beyond. And that in the end is not going to have a second's hesitation on eliminating those who have been promoting these kinds of horrid things. And that whose words, while 99.999% won't listen, and a huge percentage of those will rebel, which is even worse, that there is a tiny percentage, and we don't need much, that are going to listen. They're going to do what all you guys did. You heard me talk on the radio. You said, I've never heard anybody say anything like that before. There's aspects of what he's saying that absolutely resonates and true, and he's the only person saying them. I want to find out whether or not he's full of shit or if what he says actually checks out. And you spent the next 20 years of your life verifying that what I was saying is true. And I've been consistent ever since. And I'm absolutely on the warpath now. And we do this program specifically to expose and condemn the kind of people that are Marxists, that are promoting the murder of little children, and the Muslims that are promoting the abuse of women, and the Christians that are promoting their anti-Semitism,
and pedophilia,
and the MAGAs that are promoting Satan incarnate. And I'm not going to get through this by talking sweet to them.
No.
God's not. And I'm not trying to save them. I'm trying to save other people from them. You said, Kirk?
Well, I said the pedophilia of the Christian world, of everywhere, but in particular there. All those shows that we did way back on Shatter and Mist when we attacked the Catholic Church, the big scandal and all.
Yes.
Every time we did it, I wanted to throw up before we started or afterwards or during. But I was really proud of you because in the middle of the show, I wrote some notes down. And if you'll give me the floor for just a couple minutes, maybe or less, I wrote down, this is amazing body of work I've noticed for now over 20 years. And in that you're able to not only declare things and prove it, then prove it even more. You're the most overproved.
Yeah.
How many more proofs how many footnotes you want to go look up? And I'm
4,200 pages on Islam. Yeah.
800,
3,500 on Christianity. Okay,
Yeah.
so I put 10,000 nails in both coffins.
But even more so, in like the Christianity thing, you did something I have never seen, and I've thought about since I moved to California in '73 or '4, whenever it was. I was interested in the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I was wondering when somebody was going to finally figure this out, because I knew then that this is the key. And I was looking the other day and on our site, and I'm just reading every verse. There's the Dead Sea Scrolls, and there's the ones that corroborate this and that. And I'm just going, it just freaked me out. And I'm going, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen, because it's all there. Now, I'd already seen it, but sometimes it just hits you the second, third, fourth, fifth time. But you with logic and reason and your acumen to your abilities are just. And listen, I know you're my pal, and I would brag about you anyway. But this is a really good brag, because I think y'all will put it in my heart. I listen to y'all shows for you and Kevin, and I just go, wow, y'all are great together. And this thing that you prove in the books, I'm just so overwhelmed. And I know this only that tiny a group, because I've lost all of my family. I've lost 99% of any old friend I had. I don't expect to see them. I'm sad for them, but in a way. But if you don't see this and you can't logically come to that conclusion, my God, this is a gift of all the centuries, right here. And I'm just I'm overwhelmed.
For a quarter century.
Yeah.
The same exact message for a quarter century, and have proven it every step of the way, and offered every finding free. There are a lot of numbskulls on social media and X, and this program, of course, is broadcast on social media throughout the many various channels, YouTube, X, Facebook, and many others, who are ranting about this, that, and the other thing. And not a single one of them has ever done any research.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly.
None. And they have no credibility. They've never done any research. We're just the opposite. When I speak about Islam, I have written the 5 most comprehensive books on the Islamic scriptures. No one has ever done what I have done on Islam, which is to reorder the Quran chronologically and set it into the context of Muhammad's life, and use the hadith to prove that Allah is not a god, Muhammad wasn't a prophet, and that it's a death cult. When I speak on Islam, I speak with authority. I know the religion better than any Yemen. I know the religion better than any Muslim in the world.
No doubt.
When I speak about Christianity, I know Christianity better than the Pope, and better than any Christian on this planet. And I have written absolute proof that the Christian New Testament is completely bogus and that Jesus never existed. And I can proudly say that I killed Jesus. That myth, I have destroyed it. And I didn't do it for giggles. I did it because I'm trying to save God's people from the death cults that want to destroy it, and from anti-Semitism. And I've also destroyed the credibility of Judaism. And I've been around the world, and I know Marxism exceedingly well, and I've destroyed its credibility too. And God wanted this done. We're not doing this for our entertainment. There is nothing to be gained personally by doing any of this. We're doing it because God wanted this done. This is what he asked to have done, because the truth was so buried underneath this pile of religious and political rubbish. Until we cleared the political and rubbish and religious rubbish out of the way, and the conspiratorial lies too, the truth couldn't be seen. You have to remove the lies before the truth can even be known, and then you have to go and present the truth. And then we did something no one had ever done before. I went to the oldest available manuscript. You mentioned the Dead Sea Scrolls. I corrected the Masoretic text for the Dead Sea Scrolls, removed all of the religious diacritical markings, all of which were bogus, and removed all of the religious translations, went to the actionable root of every word, and honed the craft of rendering that text, and built such a base of knowledge that, at this point, we can read something from Isaiah and I can say, this is what it means for us today. This is who he is talking about. This is what's going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. This is why it's important to you. And no one else in the history of this planet has ever been able to do that. Any one of those things, and we've done all 5 of them. And we've been consistent at it, and moral, and informed, and rational for a quarter century. And we've just begun.
Yeah.
Now, I happen to agree that this program, even though it currently has low viewership, is going to be the most important program in the world. When we're using the Yahowah broadcast network here in less than 4 years from now, and this is playing over our heads in Jerusalem above the Temple Mount, this is going to be the most important program in the world. And it is the only way to get the attention of that final remnant. We have to do this. You read the Torah and the prophets, and one of the things that people don't recognize is that the number one subject in the Torah and prophets is not God explaining the nature of the Bereth covenant or the nature of the Moedim invitations to meet, or the nature of God himself. The number one subject is God's overall hatred for religion and politics and the consequence of those things, and what happens when people get full of themselves and they embrace them. When Jews say they're Torah observant, I laugh at them.
Sure.
Because if you observe the Torah, you wouldn't be religious. You would know that Jews were obnoxious in the Torah. In fact, there were no Jews in the Torah. There were children of Yisrael, and they were obnoxious. And you would know that in the prophets, it's one horrid, abysmal, reprehensible act after another. It is true that God chose Israel, but Israel has never chosen God. And we need to have a keen understanding of why God made the statement that when men became many, they became universally evil. And I regret having created them.
What a statement.
We need to understand why he made that statement. And I feel personal responsibility here because now I know my role and what I've done over the ages. And I know that I was the one who recommended the solution, which was those 8 souls above the Teba. And I rebooted the whole Nasama man situation. Didn't turn out very well. Turned out really shitty. And now I'm trying to bail us out of that problem. And so when I get angry, I'm angry for a reason. Yeah, I'm disappointed that my solution, which I did in, cooperation with God, so we're in it together. I don't get full blame. He doesn't get full blame. And in fact, you can't even say blame because it does turn out well in the end. But oh my God, 6,000 years of grief.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to know just how fragile I see the next 7 years. There isn't anyone in Israel that gets it. No one.
That's right.
There's not. We aren't even close to 1 in a million people that get it.
Yeah.
That are with Yahowah, that have removed themselves from I regret having created humanity. Not even 1 in a million. And we got to get close to that number. And I want you to know that the effort, the anger that is going to be needed to get from here to there is a lot. It's a lot. And so that's the reason I think this program is so important. It is the opportunity to go through what the most popular social media channel has chosen to feed those who participate in it. I'm not cherry picking these posts. They are one after another. All I'm doing is commenting on them. I want you people to know this is what social media is serving up. This is what Grok on X is endorsing, and it's no better on Facebook. We used to use Facebook, but the AI that runs Facebook is now worse than the AI that runs X. And there is no control, no influence over YouTube. It's just post what you want to post, but the management of YouTube is gone, not reachable, not accessible.
Well, I think what we do is very, very Shapat. I mean, it's like next case. Next case.
It is Shapat.
You know, I mean, it's
Makes sense.
You know, when I studied, and we're going to get there here in this new series that I'm delivering on Bashar, on the Herald. I don't think we ever talked about it previously, but when you go through the presentation on the Chodar, and you set it up first by the introduction to the Chodar in the 10th chapter of Isaiah, you know exactly who he is and what he's responsible for doing. But then when you read through the 11th chapter, the title that's applied to him twice is he is a Shaphat. He's judge and jury.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not going to be a dispassionate call. One of the things that we have learned about the Hebrew language is that hey ending at the end, which is the man standing up and reaching up, when it's put at the end of the word, like Adam becomes Adamra, para becomes para. When a masculine individual is given a title that has that hey ending, then he is the blend of the best of men and women. He is rational and emotional. And God is as well.
Yeah. Yahowah.
Yeah, Yahowah. He is as well. And we need to be cognizant of that. To be really fully human, you can't just be cerebral. You also have to be emotional. And in this process, at this time, it's a lot of both.
So then the Wah is well placed in his name, right? Because his
Yes, it is.
wow, I never saw
Yeah,
that.
it is.
Wow,
Yeah, it
cool.
is. I mentioned something in one of these programs a couple of days ago that somebody had issue with. I said that Esau was the rightful heir, and that Jacob circumvented that.
Yeah.
I said that Esau was his father's choice, which should infer that the father's choice as Dode in terms of our lives, that Esau was his father's choice. It was his mother's conniving manipulation of her husband, and Jacob playing along that stole the birthright. It was theft. Esau made a mistake in marrying Canaanite women, and God was displeased with that. Jacob did worse. He abused Leah. And so what I've said is that by Yahweh returning to the man from Edom, Yahweh's coming full circle.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I'm going to restore this relationship. You look where Edom and Moab are relative to Yehudah. They're just on the other side of the Jordan River. And as Kevin said when I brought up this example, he knows exactly what I meant when I'm saying that, because what you said is Hebrew and a bar. Mm-hmm. Hebrew means the other side. They are twins, cousins of Israel. And so the woman, Ruth, is from Moab. And the man who, according to Yahowah, saves many, who is called the Gaal, the Redeemer, twice, who is called the Yahowah, Savior, twice, he comes from Edom. Why? Because we're going to restore that family. That's what we're going to do. And so somebody can say, well, that's not fair because God says he hated Esau. How many times did God say he hated Israel?
Point.
I know I don't have enough fingers and toes to count them.
I know.
Mhm.
Like, we don't have enough fingers and toes, we counted all of us.
You can't even do it with my hair.
Ultimately, God's going to accept them back when they return, isn't he?
Yes.
What did God call Jacob? A worm.
Worm.
A worm.
Mhm.
A toeba. And that worm is a really disgusting worm. That's the worm that created the color that the Romans wore.
Yeah.
That's the worm that is thrown into the
22nd
fire when Elia orchestrated the roast of the bull to annihilate the religious and the political in Israel. It was a toba that was thrown in that. You know what the thrown in when the Adamah Parah is incinerated? It's a toba. We're going to incinerate the worm that was Jacob. The worm that is Jacob is incinerated to solve this fractured family. Because Jacob was a scumbag.
Reconciliation isn't just for Israel.
That is correct. So, Yahowah is emotional and he is rational. He emotionally got mad at Esau for what he did, but Esau was cheated.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, Yahowah was going to resolve the fractured family of Israel by a woman from Moab and a man from Edom. And he says it as clearly as words allow. It's the man from Edom that's going to save many in the end. He is the savior of Israel. So all of that, you have to recognize that all plays into the same picture. You can't just say, well, there's one line here. I don't know how to deal with that. You've got to understand the good and the bad. And that's why you've got to take Yahowah's approach, explain why he was angry at Israel, and then explain why he can embrace Israel again at the end. I can tell you why he was mad at Esau, but I can also tell you why he called Jacob a worm. And ultimately, I know that there'll be a very tiny remnant, and they're going to be neutral on Teruah, September 24th of 33. They will be neutral. Our job is to make them worthy thereafter. And the only people that are going to have value are going to be the souls of the covenant. And there are not be a lot of them. And if there were a lot, then we would have failed. We have to go back to the ark, the Teba. That's the kind of ratio we need to go back to. And that's what our job is. But we don't want to screw up, because if we aren't relentless in our pursuit of what's right, and somebody sneaks into this covenant that should not be, we got a mess. We're far better off with far fewer and not having anybody that doesn't belong than we are in more with people that are sketchy. And that's why I want to be resolute. I'm not compromising on any of this. The world's in for a horrible ride these next 7 years. And we have a tremendous responsibility, and we're going to get it done, but we're up against it. We're outnumbered more than 1,000,000 to 1. So when I get angry at the likes of the anti-Semites, which we had two that I dropped an F-bomb on 2 days in a row, both appropriate uses of that terminology. And by the way, God swears. He calls people shitheads all the time.
Because they are.
Because they are. because they are.
Really
So-
wrong.
The shoe fits,
Yeah,
right?
so let's just be honest about our speech. There are times when it is an appropriate response. And we are going to be relentless against anti-Semites. Well, we're also relentless against the government of Israel because they're dead wrong. And Judaism because it's dead wrong. And Christianity and Islam and Marxism and conspiracy. We're going to attack them all. But we're going to do so with our words, and they're going to be wielded with evidence and reason, and they're going to be supported by 30,000 pages of written documentation, all that's free at yahowah.com, and a consistent history of telling the same message for 25 years. And ultimately, even now, but more visibly later, by the very hand of God. So, I expect to be ruthless when it comes to prosecuting the Marxists that thought that it was okay to have the government fund the mass murder of babies. I expect to be ruthless when it comes to exterminating those who thought it was okay to blame Jews for killing their God and creating the Holocaust as a result. I'm going to be ruthless at the Marxists that have banded with the Muslims to wipe out Israel. And my number one foe is going to be Donald Trump and the MAGAs. And I can assure you that my judgment regarding him is not going to be to send him directly to hell. I'm going to inflict 7 times retribution for everything that he did. He's going to be tortured for a very long time before he goes to hell. And to get into that mindset, because that's where we are. You just, God doesn't like people. He regrets creating people. And this job of ending up with a family for his son, which is what he wants, his son has earned it. His son proved his merit. His son now deserves to have a kingdom and a family, and we're going to provide that for him. But there's not going to be a lot of them. I can assure you of that. But we're going to provide enough that gets it done. That's where we are. So, my friend, you're probably the hardest working guy in the covenant there, Kevin. So when I point out something that is, I take a different view on it. I realize you are the hardest working guy in the covenant. You keep this family together. You are more beneficial to this family than anybody. Nobody contributes beyond what you do. Even Rich, same devotion here as well. Rich has a little benefit, and he's isolated somewhat on this island, and he only has to put up with Leia Perry and I and the fur faces, where you're kind of the glue for everybody, and you're willing to do this program with me, and I'm a tough guy to partner with. I'm outspoken, and I react strongly. Think things are, I really am. Yeah. God did not pick a patsy.
No, he did not.
No, the idea was not, I'm going to send a dove at the end.
Yeah, with that.
No, we're not heck with that. And I want to make certain that our messaging is absolutely clear, unequivocal, straightforward. This is what our job is. We do care. God cares. That's why he's so regretful of having created humans. And people are making a mess. Boy, you just look at, I don't care which X post you look at, one after another, after another, after another. I wish that the world was that picture you have there with the white dog and the looking at the little girl that's sad. Yeah, and him trying to
go out to play.
Yeah, come on, let's go out and play. And she's being a curmudgeon. She's not very happy. And and the dog is trying to say, come on, let's go out and play. We could go have some fun. Yeah, the world's not that simple.
No.
And it's unwinding quickly. We're about to have economic collapse. We're about to have world war. We're going to have environmental collapse. Speaking of environment, by the way, it's going to be iffy here this next more than a week for us. We have storms that are lined up. Unusual now. We're actually rooting for them because we went through a dry period. And so the next one is supposed to come through here. It's supposed to be a mid-range tropical storm. That's the best of all situations for us. We're going to be on the north side of it. That's the best possible place for an island that's a little dry. And we're going to get some rain and some blustery conditions. And there's one following that one, and there's one following that one. And so we're going to have some stormy days, and we communicate here by satellite, and we generate most of our power with solar, but solar doesn't work when it's clouds in the sky.
Cloudy.
So, we may not get in every show over the next week or so. So if we don't, you'll understand that, that's what we're up against. So I apologize, Kevin, if I came a little strong, but
absolutely not. No. There's no apology needed. We're all grown-ups here, right? This is what we do. We discuss. So it's
Yes, we make important points, and I want it known that when it comes to abortion, that it's a very complicated issue, and everybody ought to be both pro-life and pro-choice, and that they ought to understand what the issues really are and speak honestly about it, particularly as you go into the third trimester. And at that point, there is no justification. It's murder. And a society that justifies killing innocent children, or a society that justifies oppressing women, as is the case with Islam, or a society that accepts the demonization of Jews, blaming them for killing a mythical god. That's not acceptable. And it's not just oh, shame on you. You shouldn't do that. I really wish you wouldn't do that. No, I hate you for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that emotion can empower and debilitate. And so what you were talking about, Kevin, is the fact that you once suffered from an addiction. And with an addiction, too much emotion can trigger a bad result. I've been around a number of addictions. I think I have an addictive personality. The reason I, never did cigarettes, alcohol, or tobacco.
I want to be a pilot. I want to be a shipboat captain.
Or any drug is because I had hobbies that precluded being able to. You can't do those things if you like to fly airplanes or have boats or run public companies. They frown on you for doing that kind of stuff. But also, I just thought that trying to resolve those cravings might be too much to overcome if I have an addictive personality. So the easiest thing was just not to get hooked on them. But I've seen many friends both struggle and lose the battle to alcohol or cocaine or tobacco with cancer. And I've seen friends overcome. And I can tell you the friends that I have that have overcome are the strongest of all friends. They have character. So you're actually in a stronger position, not a weaker position, because you know what that was like and you don't want to go anywhere close to that again. And you know that you recovered from it, which gives you tremendous strength, because something else happens, you can recover from that too. So it makes you a better person, not a worse person, to have had an addiction that you've overcome. It makes you a stronger person. I look at Doug. He had the addiction for really, I think it's the abuse of women. And he finally had to overcome it. And we had to have a lot of meetings on how to appropriately treat women with our son, Dode. So I recognize that. And I recognize that most people, when they get mad, they get violent. That doesn't mean that all people who get mad get violent. Nor does it mean that you shouldn't get mad. There are people, and I'm one of them, that I can get mad and stay composed. I can get angry and use my words and never lash out with my fists. And I don't know fear. So I'll never duck. I'll never back away from a fight. Ever. I think God is in that same general mindset that I'm in. That being angry is an adjunct to him being in control. He doesn't lose control when he's angry. He's more in control of himself. I'm not talking about control of others by being angry, which you're talking about. You lose control of yourself. The angrier I get, the more control I have of myself. The more every fiber of my body is focused on what is the job that we need to get done here and how we're going to get it done. I think God's very much the same way. Now, that's not for everybody. You know, we have different rules in this family. You got to have a unifier, somebody that can bring everybody together, that can work with everybody, and that people are comfortable going to. And I ain't that guy. But you are. Kirk is. Kirk is that guy. Yeah. Everybody loves Kirk.
Everybody loves Kirk.
And and you're that guy, Kevin. And you got to have that guy. So when I express myself, it's not to say you should be any different. You are exactly what this covenant family needs you to be.
Yep.
But I'm also who the covenant family needs me to be.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you look back to the sons of Korah, right? I mean, that wasn't an impulsive thing. From a human standpoint, it seems like an impulse. Oh, well, God was just angry and just dump them in a pit, right? No, that's not what happened. No. You know, is it, folks, this stuff isn't tolerated. You know?
Yeah, the stuff isn't tolerated. What he did with the making of the golden calf, what he did at the rebellion against Moshe, what he did with the liars who were the spies going into the promised land. No, what he did when he said, you know, you don't deserve to have the house of God to Israel and let the Babylonians come in and destroy it. You don't deserve to live in this land. He step aside and let the Romans come in and haul them out. You don't deserve this. God was in perfect control of himself. He knew what he was doing. He explained what he was doing, told us the consequence of it, why it was necessary. You know, tough love. And Israel is not going to be responsive to olive branches.
No.
Too much ego. Too much belligerence. They're just not. And of course, they turn away when it's a goy speaking to them, even though they know the prophecies of the Nakar, observant foreigner. They know the prophecies of the man from Edom, and the most important prophecies in the prophets pursuant to this time. Far more than the things that are said about a coming Messiah, because there are no prophecies on a coming Messiah. But there's sure as hell a lot of them on the Nakar and the Choder and the man from Edom. And they don't want to deal with them because they don't want to have to deal with what they have done to erase God's name and to defame his beloved son. Well, I do want to deal with them. And I'm not going to be nice about it because what they've done isn't nice. So that's how it's going to play out. It's not going to change much over the next 7 years. It's going to be exactly the same tone, same approach. We'll have quiet times where we'll have powerful learning experiences for the covenant family. And we'll have loud exchanges to demean everything that's going wrong in the world. I think it's the best we can do. Oh, well, thank you.
Hey, look.
Thank you, Wook. He says, okay, Dad, I love you. I don't know about these others out there, but
Right?
oh my. All right. Well, that's a pretty intense ending to a program. So I thank you
This is a great show.
and doing that. Thank you, my friend Kirk, for
Glad to be here.
being part of this. But we've been together for 20 years and almost as long with Kevin and with Kirk. I did have a chance to listen to Perry's narrative last night, and he's been around for about 18, 19 years, going back a long time. Man still on a quest to find the first fallacy. If we ever find the fallacy, we know he's out of here. So.
He's gone.
Yeah.
Packing up my beast and going home.
He is an interesting position now because I'm a completely open book. So if I run into a question, I'm going to express that question openly in the middle of, we're having breakfast together. I said, like Zachariah, when I realized that the two trees are not the two witnesses. And so I said, we can't use that to say there's two witnesses. You can't use Revelation to say there's two witnesses. So how do you know there's two witnesses? So when I came into breakfast, I said, so I've just destroyed the idea that those two trees that around the either side of the menorah are the two witnesses. They're the two trees. That's why they're called the two trees. That's why the messenger to Zechariah kept on saying, how come you don't know that these are the two trees? There's really nothing hidden about this. They are the two trees. So that means the tree of knowledge and the tree of lives. So then said, so we need to find where do you go to find the witness that partners with Elia, because we know that Elia is going to be there. And so the first thing I looked up is in Yahowah 62, which leads to the man from Edom. And it's the place where it talks about, I'm going to put my witnesses on the wall. And then let me tell you about these witnesses that I'm going to put on the wall. Well, I'm not going to tell you about my witnesses I'm going to put on the wall. I'm going to tell you about the one witness. There'll be more than one witness on that wall, but I'm going to tell you about the one. And he calls them, well, there's 24 informative titles and 17 statements. Yes, and not a single one of them is Wookiee.
No collab there, huh?
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you what, you'll be amazed by what is revealed there. And we'll have a ball as we go through that material, because it really is interesting stuff. But, to be a guy like Perry and be here and see it just go on every day at the intensity of it. Rich is just like, your eyes just, to wake up every day. And there's going to be something extraordinary that we're going to learn today, and be something extraordinary tomorrow. And all it's going to do is reinforce the whole picture. And it'll just be another layer and another layer of what is already a beautiful metaphor and a wonderful story well told.
And we're running out of time.
We are. Well, we are and we're not.
We're running out of time.
Yeah, we're running out of time on this section here, which ends in
this side
in 9 to 10 months. So we are a little lean on time for this one. But then we come back well invigorated and well supported, and we have 3.5 years, 1,250 days, which we now know are day and night over that period of time. But fortunately, it is a team. It's specifically stated twice that there are the companions and the compatriots of this witness in the end, and that they team up together. And they're the lovers of Yahowah that work in cooperation with this man. And their instruction is from Yahowah, don't ever let him stop. Never let him stop talking. Never let him stop acting. Don't ever let him stop.
Can we butt in once in a while?
Yeah, well, that's and that is the way that you do it.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because nobody can talk 24/7 for 1,250 days. The way that you do it is the way that we do it with the family page right now. We have lots of people that are part of the voice. The voice is coming in from many different people, and there's many contributors, and that's how you make it go. Because what you do is what Yahowah likes to do: you delegate. And so it all is a team and family approach. So that's how you get it done. Otherwise, it would be impossible. Yes. Okay, Wookie. But we're fading on our visual image there, but we're losing the visuals. All right. So thank you. Kevin. We'll be back with you later today with part 3 of Bashar. It's already been fascinating. We're just in the 33rd Mizmor. We've got a lot of really interesting ground to cover. So thank you, Kirk.
All righty, my friend. See you later.
All right. See you later. Bye.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.